How are you?
Morning.
You're
I'm
not
good.
Terry. Who are you? Who are you and what have you done?
My name is Melissa. I am a psychic medium and I've had gifts throughout my life, and my kids have had some gifts, but we are just living our best crazy lives.
Yes. Well, I am so thankful that you're joining me. To all the listeners that come back and see us every now and then. This is Melissa. She's truly one of my most gifted students. She is I mean, she's not really a student anymore. She's basically graduated. I don't even know, but such a strong clairvoyancy, such a strong clairsentiency. You I didn't do anything with that. You came with that. You came as the complete package as far as any type of intuitive gifts, and you actually came as a complete package as far as your ethics, like in your morality. So much of any of the work we did was really just like, I feel crazy, which is how this always starts. But oh my God, it's so fun. I cannot wait. The whole purpose is I want to kind of dig through your brain. I want to ask you what your thoughts were about some of the training, what your thoughts have been about your readings, having since been through, and kind of going through a little bit of timeline to degrees. So, first off, I want to kind of ask you, at what age were you starting to notice gifts?
Gosh, from the get go, like some of my earliest memories, and my mom had to kind of confirm this for me. And then it was like, as soon as she said it, it's like, oh, I remember that now. When I was 3, I was telling our mom, do you remember when I was the mom and you were the kid? And there,
I'm sure she hated that. She was like,
she was like, she tells me, she said, Melissa, you were such a strong willed child, and I was not prepared for it. And I was like, I'm sorry. She's like, no, 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 it's fine. But, you had definitely more will than I had. And she would say, and this is more about my personality, but she said, you would get in trouble and I would spank you because, I'm 49. That's what we did.
yes.
And she said, I would stand there and say, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry, Mom. I said, well, I'm going to cry.
Oh,
She was
that's so
exacerbated.
cute.
But no, so I remember knowing about people. I remember knowing, like, in the town that we were in up the hill, there was this really pretty white house. I knew about the family that lived there. I felt like there was somebody that I knew that had been reincarnated that was there. So just weird things as a child because I had no exposure to that mindset.
Hmm.
And as I got older, it was more of a establishing this connection to what I now know are my spirit guides. And
Hmm.
it was listening to them. And I would say middle school, I would hear what my classmates were thinking in terms of like questions that they had for the teacher when we were in class, and they were afraid to ask the question, and I would ask the question. And I kind of feel like that was also an inflection point too, where spirit was like, we know she hears this. So yeah, I mean, it just kind of, it's gone from there, and lots of synchronicities in the life that I would say I can attribute to spirit. However, I am legitimately not lying when I say it was only within the last like 8 to 10 months that I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this.
Which is
And that
so
was when I
funny.
connected with you. Yeah, and
That's
I had a
how
tower
we
moment, which you know about.
Which it's still to this moment, you're gonna hate this because for the listeners, neither one of us do vulnerability overly well.
No,
But I
not at all.
remember, you were crying and you were upset, and I remember thinking, like, I felt the softest towards you I've ever felt. And it's that weird feeling of, like, I just knew it was gonna be okay, but you didn't. And that's how it
Yes.
always is, like, our gifts aren't for us. We don't ever get the reassurance. So I could look at you and be like, "I can't wait for this thing for you, like, it's gonna be so
Right.
good." But we still have that human part where there's agony in your soul.
Yeah.
You were it was a tower of the worst degree for you.
Right. Yeah. And just as having worked with students, I will say it is very much like your children or your students, because you can see that there's going to be life after this moment.
Yes.
And when you were sitting in that moment, you're like, what the fuck am I going to do?
Well, and what was really cute is, I could feel your husband next to you. So to the listeners, she called because she was upset because there had been a job switch up and she was driving all the way to Washington. So it happened that she literally had to pack up and go. And I felt your husband basically, it was true love, like true, like, uh, and I almost felt like, in ordinary circumstances, he may not have known how he would have felt about you calling a psychic to like soothe you through this. But at the point of your emotions, and it hurt him so much to see you like that, he was so happy. He was like,
Yeah.
all right, this is great.
Yeah, because he had no idea what to tell me. I mean, he was a little bit angry with me because we were literally just had our house packed up. Like the movers had come. We were moving across country. I had worked so hard to set up a job and we had a house rented. It was just
Mm,
all of this stuff that we'd prepared for. And my mantra had always been up until that point, like, because my husband had already been up in Washington. So I said, I'm not going to move until I have the right job. I had literally flown to Washington multiple times, interviewed, competing offers, got the job I wanted. So the
they just
crux of this was,
re-downloaded our first reading. Now I remember it. I completely remember. That's so funny.
yeah. So as I got this news on the phone, I had a big scream, very primal scream. And my husband's like, what the fuck? And then I I told him exactly what happened. And then I immediately got on the phone with my boss and I said, can I have my job back? And he's standing there like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But it was just a
Oh,
fear moment, you know? It was just a
yeah.
scramble, and thank God my boss from my last job is phenomenal, and he was like, "Do you really want this?" I said, "No, I don't really want this." He said, "You're gonna be fine."
Well, and so now I have 2 questions for SG. SG is kind of what we call your main guide or what you shared his name to be. And I want to ask, first question is, what age was his most difficult with you to coach you when you were
He's
younger?
telling me between 8 and 10, and I'm not exactly sure why.
I just got goosebumps, so it must be true. But you just saw it all and didn't listen. Yeah, okay. Saw it all but didn't listen.
He was very headstrong.
And then what let's touch in what was he trying to say to you when that tower moment happened?
They needed the tower moment to happen because I had to be at that most vulnerable to be able to get to the lessons that I needed to have in order to have the epiphany and to know where I was meant to be going. And so, in all of this preparation, it was always about the same ending. And they told me after the fact, they're like, "You wanted the job. We got you the job. Now you're here. You don't need that job." So,
Mhm.
it was a well orchestrated effort on their part
Yes.
because I am so stubborn.
I love that though, because I mean, think about what a warrior of light you are as a result of it. Oh my gosh, and what you have been before. That's just a reality.
Yeah.
So as you moved forward in your timeline, most individuals deal with a dormancy period. So I'm curious if you had one, what age frame, where did that kind of coalesce together? What drove it? Were you trying to fit in? And then what kind of broke you out of it?
So I would say my early teens, so between, like seventh and ninth grade, somewhere around there, I really wanted to get into just alternative ways of praying, if I'll put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I was really interested in the spells and, this sort of stuff. And they very pointedly, and again, at this point, I did not know that I was talking to guides. I would have a conversation in my head, I would get an answer, and I thought it was just my own psyche playing devil's advocate, right?
Yes.
So the message was, yeah, not right now. Let's put that off a little bit because it was just such a tumultuous time, and it is for anybody going through your teens. But that was just not the right time to approach that for me, and so that was a period of just focusing so hard on my friends and feeling so awkward and trying to make friends and keep friends and just, all of that stuff you deal with when your hormones are going all over the place when you're a
Mhm.
teenager. And so that was probably when I would say I was not farther away from spirit, but just not focused on spirit.
Right, right. And then, as you sort of continued into adulthood, you still were not really believing a whole lot about it.
I knew that it was there, I think, because there was a time frame that I was really into, and even bringing my kids and my husband with me to classes to learn about everything and the spirit realm, I mean, so I was very interested, and that was when I learned that I had like an energetic connection to touching things. So especially like
Yes.
some crystal stones, that sort of thing. So having that energy, and again, still not attributing it to spirit.
Right, right.
um, so it was more like that time frame was a like being in kindergarten and just exploring things.
Yes.
So still talking to spirit, not realizing what I was doing. And so that just became this almost, they're telling me it was the, you needed to not be aware of it so it would sink in
Ooh, I love that.
because of my ego, because I would not have believed it. I would have not believed that I was good enough or special enough to be able to have that talent.
Yes, and I relate to that so deeply.
Yes.
I love you, period, and full end stop. But I've always adored sort of there's a real reality of, if you're shouting from the rooftops how gifted you are, we always just know what's up because it's almost always the people who are the most that don't believe it and getting them out of that element of distrust. And so I just love that sort of polishing process as opposed to trying to polish somebody who really already believes that they shine like a crazy person. That's just not,
Yes.
I mean, that wouldn't even be a shining process. That would actually be a breakdown, right? So I don't want to do that to people. And I love that every element when you saw how gifted you were and when you saw your accuracy, it just started to be really undeniable.
Yeah. And I think that by that point, and especially like again having that tower moment, that was when I started to break down all of those constrictive ways that I was thinking about myself. So, in terms of even my profession, in terms of me of who I was, what I had to offer, how I was receiving messages, were they messages? It was just like, oh my God, it was like, you took the puzzle piece and you picked up the puzzle and dropped it. And then I
Mm.
had to pick up all those pieces and put them back together, and it was a new image on the puzzle. So, it
And
was
that's
an interesting
amazing.
time. Yeah.
What did you think or what did you expect from the training process when you're like, "All right, I think I wanna explore this." What did you think that was going to really be?
So, first off, I went into lessons with you because I wanted to figure out what was going on because I knew I was having these messages, but I wasn't sure what it was. And I
It's
remember
so
you and I
crazy to
talking.
think about you being like, "I don't know what
Yes.
this is." Like, that was not that
So,
long ago.
no, it wasn't. And then when we got like, I don't know, I think maybe the third time in, third mentorship meeting, you were like, okay, what are we doing here? What do you want? And I'm sure that you knew it at the time, but it was like that was the way of saying I had to say, I want to know, am I a medium? I want to know, are these psychic abilities? And you're like, okay, so now that you know that you are on board with being a medium, now we can move forward. So
I love that.
but I had to vocalize that. I had to say that to myself.
I don't even remember what we talked about the first couple ones. What were we talking about?
Oh my gosh.
Perceptions would have to have been the first one. Probably
Yeah.
some energy management. Okay, yeah, because it would have been so early. See, I don't even remember those days because it's
And I
just
think
been
I had shared like some of the experiences that I've had, like my family's
yes.
experiences, like my current family unit, my extended family. So, and it was just like, again, I I don't know, honestly. I really don't know how I didn't see these things because I've always been interested in that and I know what those things are. It was a complete and utter disbelief and can't even imagine it being that I was one of those people.
Well, they showed me they said literally all I did was open the door to Narnia to basically
Yeah.
say, "No, this is a real thing, come look. Promise, promise,
Yes.
promise." Or we're both crazy and we're gonna both get some straight jackets and we'll look so cute. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, what are our options here? Either it's
Yeah.
true or we're
Yeah.
crazy.
And it was a lot of just believing in myself. I did not come from a background that really supported good self esteem. And so that
Mm-mm.
had a lot to do with it. So yeah, it was just a lot of intensive work around ego and around skills, just kind of figuring out what I was hearing, seeing, feeling, and then how to do it purposefully.
That whole ask and answer. And do you think it would have been a very different process if I had trained you with tools?
What do you mean by tools?
Like, if I had taught you divination tools, specific like, if I had said, "Okay, what we're gonna use." I know, I know, I know. But
Okay, so I will say this though. I've always loved divination tools. They're pretty and they're shiny and I like them and they are purposeful. They are purposeful, but I remember after you and I had started working and after I recognized and I call my spirit, my main spirit guide SG because throughout my life, I was like, okay, I feel like maybe there's something answering me back. So I don't know what to call you. I'm just going to call you SG for spirit guide. Like I was
I
this,
love it.
I have no creativity sometimes. I want to, there's like a taxonomy and I want to use it. So anyway, but yeah, SG is what I've been saying for years as if I'm just, like, and it's just so weird because I was like, okay, I know they're out there. I'm going to speak to you. And I get messages, but the messages aren't from spirit guide. It's just like, I don't know. Like my mind had to contort itself really strongly to connect with my ego. You know what I'm saying?
I agree
To
though.
protect that ego, that was the leaps that my mind was making. So, gosh, now I've lost my train of thought. I don't know where we were going.
Well, we were just well, it doesn't matter because I love conversations like this. This is how But with SG, what's so funny is I accidentally called one of my other students. I was like, "Ask SG," and then they're like, and I was like, "Oh, sorry." I'm sure SG was like, "I don't, that's not my charge. I'm sorry, I can't help them."
Yeah.
No, we can. But in that process where you were sort of beginning to relate with the guides, and let's go back to that guide work class that we did. Did you like to what degree how crazy did you feel? And then how long did it take you before you were like, "All right, I'm just going to rock," like, because it wasn't just SG that we explored. We have other guides. So as you
Yes.
started to even feel and see their presence, were you kind of thinking, "I can go build these relationships, but then what?" Like, what were you doing when you were trying to meet them?
So it was just a meditation, and it was after I had connected one on one with SG. Which I will tell you this story just because I think it's funny and the viewers
Yes.
might actually enjoy this. So after you and I had talked and you connected, so you knew he was there, and we had this conversation, and I was feeling like, okay, I can sit down, I can meditate because for all the times that I heard, it was always just hearing him in my mind. It was not seeing him. So you had taken me through a meditation where I saw him for the first time, and it was very serious. Like he had on this garb that was as if somebody was living in an arid desert, those kind of robes, not like cleric robes. But so I saw him, and I instantly knew that that's who that was. So that day, or within the day or two after, I went and sat down and started just talking out loud. And I saw him in my mind's eye just sit down right next to me, and I could feel that he was there with me. We were sitting like on this rock looking at the sea, beautiful, very quiet spot. And so I just started asking questions. Again, in my mind, it was always like the spirit guides were always like these stoic, all knowing, um, those kind of like,
Almost deities.
yes, yes. So my question to him, I was like, when if I feel like I have negative energy around me, like how do I get rid of that? And he said, "Oh, it's just like snot, just blow it out your nose." And I'm like, "Okay." So,
And it's not what you want to hear. You wanna hear some grand ceremony.
right, yes, I was so. I mean, it was funny because now that I know him, I know that that's the relationship that we have, and I know that he does it on purpose because I'm too in my head.
Mhm.
But in that moment, I think he was just snickering to himself. And there have been times in the past where, like, I do ask a dumb question because as soon as the thought enters my mind, I'm like, okay, that was dumb. And he laughs. And so, I mean, it's just like that kind of irreverent, funny kind of a relationship, but still serious when it needs to be.
Let's ask him, what is his opinion of your other guides? What the cohort he must spend time with?
He says it's a motley crew.
I love it. I love it.
And it is. So now that I've met like the little team, because there was a meditation that I did where I just allowed him to introduce and have them come forward. And I've always liked playing like little pranks and little jokes. And I have a guide that was literally there for that purpose, like
I love
literally
it.
to lighten my mood.
The whimsy,
Yeah, I have somebody who is more like a mother energy in terms of like working with earth and earth based
and
methodologies.
also
And
with your confidence about motherhood.
yes. Yeah. Yes. I have somebody who works with animals. I love animals, and I have trained a lot of my pets, and this person is a trainer of animals.
And I hope that you do market animal communication, as that is
That
a gift of yours.
yes. Yes, and I've done some animal healing work in the past for one person that I was with. But yeah, I think that's an avenue to go down. Let's see.
We're gonna have to talk, by the way, in class, just so you know. They're teaching me about hand stuff. I know that you had been in like, here's an example. I look crazy in my bedroom lately. I swear to God, though, it's weird. Like, they'll basically make me put my hands to where I feel them active. I feel them turn hot, and you can feel the pressure. And then basically, I have to create an arc that I see in my mind's eye, and that's how they're training me. And I don't know what any of that means, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that, but I can see it with my eyes open, and I can definitely see it with my eyes closed, and they're just saying that's just where we're starting.
Yeah, and I think before I started working with you many, many years ago, I had done massage therapy for a number of years. So working with my hands back in that point, and that was another thing that I was noticing was odd for my experiences was that I would often get the feelings of the body ailments that my clients were coming to me with, and I didn't know it until
Mhm.
they would show up, and it wasn't consistent, but it happened many times, and it also happened in my experience as a nurse. So that is something that, like, feeling that in my body, it's like, do I want that? Do
Well,
I want you to
no,
just tell me?
so what I would always you have so, we always think about the trees of gifts, right? So, like, there's the how do you say, pick it up and psychometry,
Yeah.
there's a clairsentience, and so I've always shifted anything medical as I don't take it into my body, I always put it into claircogency because it just is easier. I'm just like, "You have a bad knee, it's on the left side," like, I can just know that as opposed to having to feel it because it's sometimes that's hard to clear.
Yeah. And I think I'm still half like 50-50 on whether or not I want to feel it because knowing the body as well as I do,
Yes.
sometimes the feeling is going to give me more information
But
than,
that's
yeah.
only because you believe that to be true. You
Right.
know the
Yes.
body. You've seen your by the way, for in the well, you have a medical background, a very strong one. And so, imagine saying, "Bring me the chart, bring me the image of the chart of the thing it is."
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you just see a
Yes.
gallbladder.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
that way because it dampens your energy. You're taking injury into your body just so you can study it. Why? Like, then you've gotta raise your frequency back up because we have to understand illness in the body means there's damage to the frequency.
Yes.
I'm
And so these
sorry,
are
I don't
the
mean to
things. No, no,
yeah,
no. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm still like fleshing out, trying to figure out what is the best,
for you.
way of doing that. But yeah, so like right now I'm mostly just focusing on mediumship and because that is new to me.
Yes, I
And
love that. I love that for you.
but yeah, so it has been a very interesting gosh, it's only been
You have
5
energy coming
months.
up on the mother line, now that we're talking about mediumship.
That is very most likely my
Oh, it's your
maternal
mom.
mother.
Yeah, it's always your mom.
It's my grandmother, it's my mom's mom.
Okay, yeah.
So
What she's saying, "It's always me, it's always me."
it is. She's yes, and there was, one time I had asked Justy, and this was a little bit
Who's the
selfish
male?
and,
Who's the male that said, "Yeah, but when's it my turn?"
might be my dad. I just recently had him in on a reading, and then
Did he wear glasses?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's just
So
laughing. He said he's showing up on but they're also they're I want you to know as well, they're doing me a favor. They're this is for me too. Them showing themselves because it's the first time where I've had the ability to like what the way I teach, when I say pick a side,
yeah,
I never see it. I see it right now.
yeah,
So they're helping me understand some things too. So thank you to your bloodline.
good.
That's so
Yeah,
crazy.
so it's and, in terms of bloodline too, I really do feel like that I will say this. I think bloodline matters in terms of like gifts that you are handed down. However, I think that it is not necessary that you have spiritual gifts in your family's history in order to do this work. I feel very strongly that this is something that anybody can learn. It might take a little longer and it might not. I mean, for me, it was all the ego. Like it was 5 intense months of breaking down ego. That's all it was for me. It was just getting me to recognize what was going on and then stepping out of my own head, so to speak,
Mhm.
and letting go of control because control is a big thing for me. I want to control this. And every step of the way, my spirit guides are like, you don't have the kind of control you want.
You can yeah,
So,
you can't well, and, Terry and I, it's like we teach exclusively through the guides. And so anybody can get all of the information that they need from the guides. Sometimes bloodline is what makes the rest spill over. Like, not you didn't even know you had guides and you were spilling over. And I think that's sometimes very confusing for people because they can meditate for 20 minutes and not really have an experience that they're seeing you have accidentally.
right.
And so in certain energies where say there is more dormant spiritual gifts, it's just like genetics. They can be switched on the moment you go to your guides and say, "Hey, I want to do this. Help me, bring it closer." And so thank God for the guides, right? I don't know what we would do without them.
Yeah, no, it is. And I do feel like even when you don't recognize them, they're working. They're doing their jobs. I and you and I and I've even watched the videos from Terry because I've had a couple of readings I think from Terry. The vibe is like, they must be the hardest working entities anywhere.
1,000%.
Because I have 2 kids and, oh my gosh, it is impossible to raise them alone. So, I think that's why we have a team because you can't
Mhm.
just have one. I mean, one is in charge perhaps, but, it just takes more than one. But yeah, no, it is reassuring and comforting to know how much we are supported on the other side
Mm.
and to know that we're not in this alone. So even when we're in the moments where we are in most despair and feel most alone, we are never alone, ever.
And do you ever remember as you say these words out loud, through your chest, through your heart chakra, we can all remember the time that we saw somebody else say that and we're like, "Shut up. What do you
Yeah.
mean we're not alone?" I feel very like it's like you really do walk through the hero's journey to come out on the other side of this fully in control of your gifts because it's the fool's that's what's so magical about the birth, like, your arm, the rebirth. Man, and it's like, for us
Yeah.
to be so will-powered and so
Yeah.
skeptical.
And this it has been a painful process. It is not like I'm just going to show up for class and that's that. I mean, I have always walked towards the problem as opposed to skirting it or ignoring it. So for me, I knew full well what facing my concerns are, facing my, those little dark secrets that you have to come to terms with
The
when it's
shadow.
time. Shadow work, yeah. So even though I knew that was going to be painful, I knew it was going to be a bit of a process. I walked headlong into it. I also had time. Like for me teaching, I have a summer off. And so I was able to
Good point.
devote
That's so
that
cool.
much intense time to it. So, and I do feel like I just, because I teach, I want people to understand that, if you're learning this and that this is like the goal that you have for yourself, you don't have to do it all at once like I did. You don't have to
Mhm.
just dive in and do nothing else in your life because we all live lives. We have stuff we have to do. So, I mean, just there's no timetable that you can predict for yourself is on our guide's timetable.
And it wouldn't really make sense, would it, for us to all we would ever do is to, like, go inward into the cave of our existence and train?
Yeah.
Because at some point, you gotta go take what you trained and do the work, which is
Yes.
never for us. It's
Right.
always for others.
And not only that, it's like when there have been times where the lessons have been so profound and impacted me so much, I needed a breather after that. So you have to go at your own pace.
Mhm. When, going back to sort of the work we do in the light for other people, and we're talking mediumship before, and so one could really argue, we are the intercession between the living and the dead. And so, for as weird as that sounds, that is the truth. We're not gonna act like that's not what's up. So, as you've already delivered certain messages for other people, you have this knowing, this gnosis that nobody else can unless you do this work. the way energy feels on the other side. What do you think you wish somebody who doesn't believe in all this stuff, what do you wish they knew about the nature of spirit and what they wanna talk about, like, their how they are when they're past?
First off, I would just wish for that person to have some faith and some openness. I think that sometimes for people to say there is nothing on the other side, like we are here in this earth, we die and everything is gone. I feel sometimes that that is just I am afraid to find out what's on the other side. So, yeah, I always encourage people to be open minded, but to listen to your gut. That intuition is not something that you should ignore. You should have that. But, listen with a grain of salt and just acknowledge that you don't know everything.
Mm. And, I'll speak for myself, when I deliver spirit messages for people, it's so funny because it's just kinda like guides. They never are talking about what you want them to. Like, you might be wanting them to say, "Did you I'm sorry," and they're over there talking about their flowers. And you're like, "Yeah, but, like, are you sorry?" That your daughter's wanting to know.
Yeah, and so right now at the point that I'm at with my spirit guides in terms of like delivering messages, it is almost exclusively the messages themselves are coming through my spirit guides. No, I definitely have feelings and I have done energy work even though I didn't know what I was doing. And again, after the fact I know this now. So I am still trying to kind of make sense of like where this so I typically will feel spirit on my right side
Mhm.
and I will get and I've it's if you've ever had a feeling of having a conversation and you just get really like you have this energy and it's like you're almost shaking a little bit, you don't know where it's coming from, and you think, oh, I'm just really excited about this. That is what I would feel every time as a kid when I knew that I was getting something that wasn't from me.
Ooh.
And it was I couldn't understand how it was working or what it meant, but it was like I knew something was significant at that point.
Mm.
And in retrospect, it was the information that was coming in. So that is how I know that I'm getting something from
Ooh,
spirit.
I love that.
So I have had to learn because I will get shaky enough to the point where it's distracting. And so I have learned how to kind of tamper that down without diminishing the message.
Mhm.
So kind of paying attention to like how you feel and it again is
Well,
just
they said
learning
you
about yourself.
they said you learned how to house the gift.
Yeah, and you know what? It's I don't think you necessarily know cognizantly what you're doing. I think your spirit has its agenda
Oh, yeah.
and the conscious mind has to catch up.
Oh, man, that is so perfectly said. That is so perfectly said. Yeah, and then, it makes you somewhat realize we are secondary to our spirit, and how thank God for that.
Yeah. And I do
What
feel
a
like
protective thing that is.
I know in the past, and I will say this without trying to throw shade on anybody that I've had relationships with, but I do remember being an adult and being out of alignment with my soul's purpose. And they were telling me this, and like, this is not the path you're meant to take. Not that it was like damaging per se, but it was just like, this was not what you were meant to get out of this situation. This was not supposed to meant to last this long.
Mm,
This was
it's a
not
free
where you're
will
supposed to.
thing.
Right. And so all that time they kept, even though I was hearing them, I didn't realize what was going on. And I was just like, there were roadblocks, constant roadblocks, which was them telling me, this is not what you're meant to do.
Mm,
So it's not, I mean, if that is something people experience, like if I'm just talking to them, not reading them, I offer that. I offer that, if you feel like this life, like the path that you're on right now is not working for you, what else would you want to do? Like it's almost like a life coach kind of thing. Like what makes you happy? What resonates with you?
isn't that the majority the majority of everything that we'll ever do in this work is life coaching. But life coaching through spirit because there is a greater understanding. Like, you can look at somebody and see with all the reverberations in their body that they're not where they're supposed to be. You know who cannot see that for the life of them? Them.
Right. Yeah.
And I
And it was the
love
same for me. Yeah.
Well, and thank God too, because then that really means if we were never supposed to be able to heal ourselves in this one particular way, then that must mean that we were supposed to heal each other. And
Yeah.
I love that because
Yeah.
then that must mean that like mycelium net that I always see that connects us all, that webbing, it's like, man, that can either be for our highest detriment if you allow the wrong egg into your circle, into your mycelium net, or it can mean that you have just ensured that none of you can fail.
Yes. And I think what my guys are telling me too is in my experience, they were having to teach me to learn how to accept help because I'm too proud a lot of times. I just want to do
Same.
it myself.
And you can't, we can. That's what makes it
Right.
worse is we can do it. So then the feedback loop tells us, well, that worked out.
Right. Yeah. And, I'm Gen X. Like, we did everything for ourselves as kids. And so, like, growing up, it was just like that little bit of, I can do this. I know I can do this. I like doing this by myself. And they had to be like, really? Do you? Are you sure about
Exactly.
that? So, like, going down the wrong path, so to speak, was still something that I learned from. So,
Yes.
there's never anything in your life that you're not learning from if you allow yourself to be.
Yes, and what do you think the number one thing that prevents people from being able to look at themselves like that is?
Being afraid of what they see.
Mm.
They're not able to understand that we're flawed and it's okay to be flawed and
Dang.
it's okay to work on those at your own pace.
That it's not personal.
Right. And also what I dislike most about our current like time frame is how accessible the tools that you have to soothe yourself that are not benefiting you. Whether it's like social
Mm.
media, it's just a distraction, or if it's substances, or if it's, gambling, whatever, anything can become a habit, and the habits can distract you from working on yourself. So it is a balance between how much work on myself can I tolerate, and when do I need to check out for a little bit?
And now, we all need our ways to check out, but now imagine that you start the feedback loop where you start to check out and then you feel really guilty and shameful of what you did while you were checked out, and now you
Yeah.
can't look at your shadow because that happened while you were checked out, so we can kinda act like that wasn't us,
Yes.
and on and on and on it goes, and then you sit in front of a psychic and you say, "I just wanna talk about my career." You're like, "No, you don't. You've got 3 avatars that none of them are working towards each other. You don't like your partner. You don't feel confident in yourself, but yeah, let's talk about career." 'Cause that's what you'll see sometimes, is we can get so lost in the sauce, and all of us do. There's no shame. I really feel that way. I mean, we'll get lost again. If we're doing things right, our ego is gonna get too big because 'cause we're gonna get really good at what we do, and then that's gonna break down, then we're gonna get better at what we did and better than we thought we could be at what we already did. This is the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
It's the breathe in and the breathe out, and falling in love with that instead of fearing it, is taking every single power back from every moment you didn't like from yourself, every memory you don't like about yourself. And you're gonna
Yeah.
take all that back and be like, yeah, I don't love it, but what do I need to mine from it?
Yeah. And it's just being kind to yourself. And I was not kind to myself for many years. As a child, I think unless you've had something really drastic, life altering, negative happen to you as a child, I think that we come into the world with a little bit of wonder and trusting and curiosity, which is what we should have when we're kids. And when
Mhm.
that process gets interrupted, you learn maladaptive coping techniques. And that's a little bit of where I was
But highly
with.
effective maladapted.
Yes, yes. So, yeah, so I think that, the guys are kind of trying to mitigate that, somewhat. But when you get to be an adult, you have to deconstruct it and you have to face it and you have to do that work that is highly uncomfortable
Mm.
to get, like, if this is the work that you want to do, if you want to be successful in life in any area, that's a part of being successful.
And there are no you're I love you're very, very eloquent, like, you're very well spoken. That was perfect, that's so true. And when we look at sort of the things that sometimes our community can draw, it's a lot of false light sometimes. It's a lot of, I don't know, I wanna say, like, the infatuation maybe with the ideas of control, because, like, let's look at why witchcraft is so fun and interesting. It's pretty much immediate, like, "I want it this way. Here's the way I can do it, and then it will be this way." And in many forms for someone like me or you, me specifically, who likes control, that's a perfect medium, and you maybe don't know how that can all go sideways fast, but it's not crazy. It's actually in our DNA to want to use something outside of the known realities as we understand them
Right.
to get our way or
Yes.
protect our family, protect the crops.
Yeah.
But then, like what you and I realize, some certain things you can't change. They're not
Yeah,
meant to
and
be changed.
there was a point in my life in my teens that I was really interested in that, and the my guides were just like, not right now. Let's just hold off on that for a little bit." And I had that message loud and clear, but again, just thinking that it was me talking to myself. So I set that aside, and I had plenty of friends who were into it, so I kind of lived vicariously through hearing about what they were
Yes,
interested in and learning.
but without the karma.
Right, yes. So, I mean, in what I have, the research I've done and what I know to be true is there are responsible ways of practicing every ideology and religion, and there
I
are
agree.
ways of abusing it.
I agree.
So, and I don't want any listener to think that forms of Wiccanism or witchcraft are not able to be practiced responsibly, because that they can. So,
They can. It's comes down to, would you sign a contract that you don't understand? And that's
absolutely not.
with our guides, that's with animal energies, that's with fey energies, elementals, just like at the age that you were working in that energy or being around it. Were you or any of your friends at the age where they could sign a contract?
Don't think any of them understood it.
Right. That's the only
That's my
thing.
point too, yeah.
And you and I, even how do I say this? Okay, so imagine like a type of metal that you're made out of. I don't know why they're making it this way. For some reason, you have a strong alloy, like you are a lot of that material. I think a lot of people are chasing those modalities for an outcome that looks like that material. And I think it's like the responsibility is almost really never the practice. It's like, what are you trying to become?
Yeah, I mean, you have to consider the intent.
Yeah, like what's your
What is
outcome
my
that you
intent
want?
with this? Yeah, and on that note, I personally don't believe in wanting malice or retribution to be the point of anything. I don't wanna focus on that.
Mm-mm. No, what's that thread? We
You
were
bring that into your energy
It has to
and
snap back to you if you start threading it for someone else.
right. So that is what I when I talk to friends who have different kinds of practices, because I'm always loving learning.
I love that.
And I ask them about those things. There's various levels of interaction in which they will admit to, like, okay, so yes, I believe that I can impact my surroundings through this practice. And my question, sometimes I actually do ask, I said, well, I like to know, how does that impact you?
Ooh.
Do you have this practice? What did it take from you? What did it put back on you? And did you know that? Were you okay with that? And if you are, I just want to understand everything before I enact
Mhm. Well, that's
as much as I
wisdom.
can.
Absolutely. Well, and, if you were to say, say next week we start Melissa's Academy and you were in the position of teaching spirit, what do you think that you wish your students would know from your perspective, from what you've been through as a human, as a practitioner so far?
I would say that spirit always has our best interests. And when we are listening to spirit, we need to make sure that we're listening to what is spirit and not to something that is trying to masquerade as spirit. And to do that work so that you know the difference. To be
Mhm.
confident enough that you can know the difference.
The harmonic of truth. You can feel
Yes.
it.
And I have had, and I honestly kind of feel like my guides have let me be exposed to some things a little at a time, because there have been instances recently where after the fact, after I was making contact with an energy, that I found out afterwards, okay, this is not what I want. And I severed those ties. So there was no exchange of energy that was detrimental to me. But when I was wanting to learn about this, when I did my research, that was when I found out, "Mm, this is not what I thought it was." So that's the kind of
Can you
thing
can
that I
you
would
give an
hope.
example? We can cut it if you but I'm so
Okay,
curious.
so I was very interested in. I'm very fascinated with the Irish culture, and
Oh, I
so
love it.
I like it. It's like, for instance, fairies. We've talked about those in classes, but it's just like it's so cute and fun, and I wanted to find out more about it. Well, it's a very common thing to think of house spirits that serve the people that live there, serve the house, the structure, the land. And so that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to think, okay, is there a house spirit? Because the home that I'm in is a rental. It's been a rental for a long time. And so I was curious, has this house spirit gone dormant because there's been
Right.
so many pastors, right? So that's what I was trying to do. And I did get a response back. But the response and the tone and the cadence of what I was hearing was not congruent with what I know a house spirit to be. House
And what
spirit
was it
being,
indicating?
it was more of an authoritarian tone
Mm,
in terms of like when I was saying, what can we do to bring harmony? So that it was very wanting changes to be made in the way that we act within the house, and I
yeah.
don't think that that was congruent.
No. Right, right,
So I
right.
stopped it. It was that one conversation, and then I went back to my guide because
What was
guides
the
don't.
silly stuff it wanted? Like, walk clockwise? Like, what?
No, it was so. My husband really enjoys playing like computer games, and he was this spirit. It sounded like male. The spirit was like, "That's I don't like that. I don't That's too loud. He needs to turn it down." I'm like, "I'm not gonna tell my husband to turn down his video games."
Right. Well, and so do you think this was a living spirit, like a spirit that had passed, or it was just of the spirit realm?
I think it was of the spirit woman. Don't get the
Yeah,
feeling that
I
it was a
feel that.
human.
No.
Yeah.
How funny though. It's like no matter what, whether it's a living spirit or another entity, they still don't like loud noise. Like, it's just funny how what they care about. It's so funny.
Yeah. But again, if you were not knowledgeable and didn't know to question things, you might have gotten tricked by that.
Yeah.
And who knows what the intent for that spirit was? To just have some kicks or
Yeah.
to, you
Take
don't
over the
know.
house. Well, and then now, imagine people who are gifted, but they never did the work to get to know their guides. They don't have that person they can go to and be like, "What's this?" That's really scary to me. I don't know what I would do without the guides. I just don't know. I
Right. Yeah. That is literally your protection. I mean, there
and
there
your
are some.
teacher.
Right. Teachers and protection. And there are things that they don't necessarily have dominion over, which is what I worry about. So, working with them first, knowing them first, that is your strongest ally on the
Mm.
other side. So, that
If
is
you ever
somebody,
astral travel, they go
right.
with you. If you ever go
Yeah.
to the lower worlds, they protect you.
And if nothing else, if they feel like you're starting something that is not, maybe they give you that little like, really, really, I can't tell you what to do. You have free will, but this one you might want to think about. You know.
So, I was a long time ago, I was hanging out with someone that I knew I shouldn't. I've never had my car booted before. The first night. And I thought, "Oh boy, okay, guys," and I got myself out of that fast. But it
Yeah.
was just like, they are look at those things. Notice them. If you've never been pulled over before and you're going to hang out with someone you already feel weird about and suddenly you get pulled over, notice it.
Yeah.
And then thank the policeman's guides for listening to him to make sure it was you that got pulled over. Like, all of this is an orchestration of the
Yeah.
highest orders. And then we
Yeah.
sit there and be like, "Mer, it didn't go our way." Maybe
So
for a reason.
I will tell you something else that's an interesting, at least here in my family, it's an interesting side effect of becoming a little more in tune with spirit is my husband, who I know that he has some gifts that he just doesn't want to explore and he doesn't have confidence in. However, his intuition has gotten better around me. First off, because I'm talking it through, like I asked him, "Do you want to hear about this? If not, if it's too woo woo for you, it's fine. I don't have to talk about it." But he was
I
like, "No, I
love
want
it.
to hear about it." So it's like the more that I share my experiences, the more he is opening to his intuition, even though he doesn't necessarily understand that what he's speaking is intuition.
Yes, right.
So, yeah.
Well, that's how so my boyfriend is an old flame from a long time ago, and but he is he's a Pisces. He's the most intuitive, and he doesn't believe any of this. And he's about to meet Terry tomorrow. He
Oh,
doesn't
goodness.
believe any of this, and I love him. I've loved him for it. Like, I don't care. I don't
Yeah,
care, and he's so sweet with me. He'll just listen to me, and he'll be like, "You know I don't," but he's Slovakian. He'll be like, "You know I don't believe this." I'm like, "I don't care. I'm gonna keep talking about it." And he's like, "Okay." And, like, I just so somehow we always wind and I think it's meant to be this way.
yeah,
We always wind up with somebody who can watch our 6. If they're
yeah,
over here doing their metaphysical work, who's watching our 6? So it's like Terry's got someone who's not overly invested. You've got someone who's not overly invested. I've got somebody who doesn't believe in it. Like
yeah,
we it's almost like they're serving the masculine. They're
yes.
protecting in the material world and we're protecting them in the spiritual world and
Yeah.
this is how it always has been.
Yeah, and I think that my husband has also, so he's had his own things happen within our house, and so
Mhm.
I think like he saw a three-dimensional spirit. Like he said, it looked like somebody just thrown the sheet over themselves and was pretending to be a ghost, and followed that. The kids waited outside. He went in. He literally got a knife because he thought it was a real person.
Yeah.
Followed it down the hallway. It was not there, but this really strong, horrible smell was there after it. So that was something we deconstructed and
Ooh.
asked. So he's had that, and then he also
What did
had
your guide
a,
say it was?
well, that at that point, I this was
No,
decades
let's
ago.
ask
So at
now.
that point, I had to actually go to like a spiritual center that I've been working with, and they helped me figure that out. And then,
Well, but let's touch
and
base with it now. For some
sure,
reason, they want you to ask SG because they want you to feel the truth of it outside of what was discussed back then. Why would have let that smell? What was its purpose?
there. Well, first off, they're telling me it was more of a way of. It sounds terrible. It's an initiation for Gary.
Yeah.
'Cause they knew where I was going with this, but it was not necessarily a friendly spirit, but there was enough guidance and protection around there to usher it out.
Not only that, but let's be real. We know who you are. It's your house. That's what
Yep.
they wanted to get to. Is
Yes.
they wanted it to be understood that we are not the ones that randomly have negative spirits make themselves no they're not you think our guides would let that happen? You think that they wouldn't wake us up in the middle of the night so that we could change the energy before that ever happened? No, that was allowed to happen, like you said, for him to
Yeah.
be able to recall that later and know you're not crazy
Yes.
because
Yeah.
he felt crazy that night.
Yes. And it was also because my kids were little and they were having experiences. It was
Yes,
also almost like the light was so strong to attract things to our space. There
to
was no way
shine.
we weren't going to have it. So the kids were very vocal about the things that they had going on. And at that same time frame, my husband had an out of body experience, like dream at night, where he was playing with our son at the playground in our area and didn't really he woke up to me. He's like, I had the weirdest dream and I was playing with Nathan, but we were like eye level with each other. And then Nathan came back and said, oh, I had the best dream. Dad and I were playing at the playground. And that's when that epiphany moment for my husband went off. He's like, we were there at the same time. So it was just like mind blowing.
And now let's ask, I want you to ask Spirit, who called that meeting? Was it him or was it the son?
The sun.
That's right. Again, so we have to, essentially what happened is your son was lonely. He was just like, "I hate sleeping. This is boring. This is lonely."
Yeah, he had
And
his own room. He was like three.
yeah.
Yes.
And then how beautiful of a soul. Gary's probably like just trying to have some dream and some sleep. He's already a parent all day. And then the son's like, "Come play with me in the dreamscape." He's like, "Okay."
Yeah.
I
Yep.
love that. Well, Melissa, I won't take up your whole day. We already had been training for an hour before this. Thank you so much for joining me. I cannot wait to see what you get up to in your community up in Washington. Shout out your area. Tell us what you're up to lately. Where you're going to be soon.
Okay, so I will be in a town called Everett, which is north of Seattle, this coming Saturday. So for the next,
Perfect.
like every other weekend, I will be there, and it's a metaphysical fair. I can't remember exactly the name of it. I think it is metaphysical fair if you look it up on.
It's like spirit guide.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not very creative. Anyway, but yeah, so I'll be there and I am taking readings virtually for my crowd in DFW because that's where I've lived all of
Perfect.
my life up until 5 months ago.
send me your card. Don't forget, we'll put it in the office.
Okay, great. All right, will do. Thank you.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'll see you next week. I love you. I love you. I love you. Take care.
Love you too. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Awesome. Bye.